Hello everyone. In this session, I will be presenting the module Nuclear Energy and Law, which has been prepared by Dr. M.P. Ram Mohan from the Terry University, New Delhi. By way of introduction, this module provides a broad understanding of the history, evolution, and institutional and legal frameworks that have evolved and that govern civilian nuclear energy program. The module covers both international and Indian legal instruments and institutions that relate to civilian nuclear energy. A distinction has been made in the beginning itself that the module covers the civilian aspect, which relates to energy production, etc., and not the military part of the program. What are the learning objectives of this module? After completing this module, the readers will be able to understand the complex scientific, historic, institutional, and legal framework in respect of the development and use of nuclear energy. In terms of the outline of this session, we will first go through a background, followed by some slides on the development of nuclear energy law, followed by institutional developments, a brief comment on the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, followed by some discussion on India and nuclear energy. This will be followed by a discussion on the international legal and regulatory framework, the nuclear liability regimes, and as well on nuclear safety and security. Finally, the session will be summarized for you. In terms of background, the modern development of nuclear science has its beginning as early as 1789 with the discovery of uranium by a German chemist, Martin Klaproth. Throughout the period from 1800 to 1900, efforts have been directed to find out more about the nature, composition, and use of uranium and its properties. In the year 1938, Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann, through their experiments, discovered the process of fission in uranium for the first time. Consequent to this, chain reaction became a possibility, which subsequently made the work in developing an atomic bomb a step closer. The Second World War from 1939 to 1945 hastened the development of military application of nuclear science. On 2 December 1942, scientists led by Enrico Fermi achieved the first self-sustained nuclear chain reaction in Chicago. With the prospects of Germany acquiring the nuclear bomb seeming closer, Albert Einstein's letter to President Roosevelt informing how close the Germans were led to the formation of the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project was conceived in 1939 and led by the United States with participation from the United Kingdom and Canada, became the nerve center in the development of the atomic bomb during the period 1942 to 1945. In July 1945, the United States tested its first atomic bomb in New Mexico. Soon after, in August 1945, USA exploded 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, showing the world the destructive power of nuclear energy. That is, human and environmental consequences from nuclear radiation exposure. It may be remembered that the action of bombing Japan took place only a few weeks after the heads of states signed the United Nations Charter on 26th of June 1945 in San Francisco. With the war ending and knowing well that the United States and its allies may no longer hold monopoly in nuclear science, efforts were directed to control the spread of nuclear weapons. At the same time, attention was also being directed for peaceful application of nuclear energy. The newly formed United Nations became the focal point in this effort. These efforts led to the development of nuclear energy law as we know it today. As Werner Boulanger stated, the purpose and function of nuclear law is to promote and to protect. To promote the development of nuclear science and technology, and to protect mankind against any hazards possibly connected with nuclear energy. Nuclear energy law, in effect, had to confront or to deal with multiple factors. These include proliferation, which refers to the diversion of civilian use to weapons program, protecting the industry and the public equally from massive compensation claims and provisions for the same, the establishment of an effective and credible regulator to ensure that the operator and all others follow the strictest regulations for a safe program, and to make sure that the program does not have any unintended consequences for the environment and the people, like waste management, public consultation, radiation risk, etc. We will now discuss the institutional developments relating to nuclear energy. Now, the United Nations shouldered much of the responsibility to answer the nuclear question. Its uses and concerns, since this topic is best discussed formally at a multilateral institutional level involving all the permanent 5 members of the UN Security Council, which include China, France, Russia, the UK, and the United States, as well as other countries. In 1945, there were extensive consultations, in particular between the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and later the USSR, on the need in an effort to reach agreement on the conditions under which international cooperation might replace rivalry in the field of atomic power. Subsequently, on 15 November 1945, during a summit in Washington, D.C., the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada issued the agreed declaration on atomic energy, stating that in order to attain the most effective means of eliminating entirely the use of atomic energy for destructive purposes and promoting its widest use for industrial and humanitarian purposes, a commission should be set up at the earliest practicable date under the United Nations to prepare recommendations for submission to that organization. On 27 December 1945, at a meeting of the Council of Foreign Ministers in Moscow, the United States and the United Kingdom proposed, and the USSR agreed, to create the United Nations Atomic Energy Commission, or the UNAEC. On 24 January 1946, the United Nations General Assembly passed the first resolution in its first session, creating the UNAEC with representatives from the United States, USSR, Canada, United Kingdom, and others, in an effort to consider problems arising from the discovery of atomic energy and related matters. Though well intended in its efforts to establish an international oversight of the use of atomic energy with the hope of avoiding unchecked proliferation of nuclear power post World War II, the working of the UNAEC has been contentious. The United States and the then USSR proposed different proposals, which led to their non-acceptance of either of these proposals. After 3 years of deliberation and almost 200 meetings, the UNAEC failed to reach any major agreement. In September 1949, the USSR conducted its first nuclear weapons test, followed by the United Kingdom in 1952. The Soviet nuclear test effectively ended the UNAEC's role, and the UN General Assembly, by a resolution of January 1952, formally dissolved the UNAEC, creating in its place the UN Disarmament Commission under the Security Council with a general mandate on disarmament.